Today we are going to discuss about employment and unemployment. Okay, so first we are going to tell what is the meaning of this word employment. First, let us know the definition of employment. What is this employment? Okay, employment means any activity which helps the person to earn his living. Okay, so that is called employment. This employment can be classified into two. First, we can talk about self-employment. Now, what is this meaning of this word self-employment? Self-employment means, tell that, or we can tell self-employed workers. Okay, self-employment, we can tell self-employed worker who has his own enterprise. Okay, the worker working in his own enterprise. Okay, the worker working in his own enterprise, so we can tell that that person is a self-employed person. And the second type is called wage employment. The second is wage employment. First is self-employment, second is wage employment. Okay, so what is this wage employment? Wage employment, we can also tell hired worker. Okay, we can also tell hired worker. Now, what is this hired worker? Hired worker, we can tell this this is of the two types. This wage employment is of two types. First, we can tell casual wage labor. Again, this wage employment can be divided into two types. First is casual wage laborers, and the second type we can tell a regular salaried worker, or the second type we can tell regular salaried worker. Okay, again we will discuss with what is the first one, casual wage laborers. Now, what is this casual wage laborers? That means these laborers are not permanent. Casual wage laborers are casual wage laborers, they are not permanent. These casual wage laborers are not permanent, or what we can tell that they do not get any social security benefit. Okay, they do not get any social security benefit. Okay, they do not get any social security benefit. And the next one is the regular salaried workers. Who are these regular salaried workers? They are the permanent workers. Okay, regular salaries worker, we can say they are the permanent worker. Okay, regular salaried worker, so they are the permanent worker. For example, we can say a teacher, or we can tell teacher, professor, or any government employee. So what we can say, they are the permanent one and they are the regular salary worker. They get salary every month. So what we can say, these are the two types of employment: self-employed and wage employment. And under the wage employment we can tell these are the hired workers. So these hired workers, there are the two types. First is the casual wage laborers and the second one is the regular salaried workers. So what we have learned till further, we have learned what is the meaning of the word employment. So what is employment? Just a recap of it. What is employment? Employment means any activity which helps an individual to earn his living. Next, this employment may be of two types: self-employed person, that means a person those who have its own enterprise, working in its own enterprise. And the second one is a wage employment, or we can tell a hired workers. These hired workers, they are the two types. First is a casual wage workers. That means these workers, they are not permanent. They don't get any types of social security benefit. And a regular salaried person, that means the professor or the government employee, they get a social security benefit, and they for example we can say a teacher or a professor or any government employee. Okay, they get salary every monthly basis. Next we will discuss about employment in the primary, secondary and tertiary sector. Okay, so first we will discuss about what is primary sector, what is secondary sector and what is tertiary sector. Achha, so what is primary sector? Primary sector means we can tell they are based directly from the natural resources. Okay, primary sector are based directly from the natural resources. So these are the primary sector. We extract directly from the natural resources. For example, what we can say, agriculture. Okay, example what we can say, agriculture, then fishery, okay, then mining, then quarrying. Okay, so these are what they are extract directly from these natural resources. Next we move on to what is secondary sector. Next we are moving on to what is secondary sector. Now what is a secondary sector? Secondary sector is also called the manufacturing industry. Okay, next is the secondary sector. Secondary sector is also called the what? Manufacturing industry. Okay, secondary sector is called the manufacturing industry. Now, for example, what we can say, any textile industry, this is a manufacturing industry. Any automobile production, this is also a manufacturing industry. That means what, when we are in this sector means when we are using the raw materials for further production, and these raw materials are coming from where? From the primary sector. From extracting the natural resources, our raw materials is coming, and by using those raw materials, when we are using these raw materials for the further production, then we can say that is called the secondary sector, or we can tell manufacturing industry. Okay, for example, I have told you any textile industry or any automobile production industry, these are all the secondary sector. Next we move on to what is the tertiary sector. Next we move on to what is tertiary sector. Tertiary sector means the service sector. Tertiary sector here means the service sector. Service sector here is a tertiary sector. Okay. For example, what we can tell? Transport, then trade, transport, storage, etc. These are all the included in the tertiary sector. Now next we will see the employment pattern in these sectors. Next we will see the employment pattern. The employment pattern in these three sectors. Okay, next we will come into this employment pattern. So first we will discuss about the primary sector. From the primary sector we will see the employment pattern. Primary sector we are seeing the employment pattern. See, in the year 1972 to 73, what we can see that in this the employment is about 74.3% in the primary sector. That means 74.3% of the people are employed in this primary sector. Then when we are moving on to the year 2017 to 18, what we can see here, we can see this percentage have been reduced to 44.6%. Okay, this percentage is reduced to 44.6%. So previously the primary sector contribution was 74. This means the employment in this primary sector was 74.3%. Now in the year 2017 to 18, we can see that the percentage has reduced to 44.6%. This is the case of the primary sector. Now we will see the employment in the secondary sector. What is the percentage of employment in the secondary sector? Now we will see the employment in this secondary sector. So previously what we can see that means in the year 1972, again we are talking about 1972 to 73, we will match and we will compare and see that in this secondary sector 10.9% of the people are engaged in this sector. Then in the year 2017 to 18, what we can see in the year 2017 to 18, what we can see? We can see that this percentage has increased to 24.4%. These percentage has increased to 24.4%. So what we can see in the secondary sector, the employment was 10.9%, which has increased to 24.4%. Now we will see in the tertiary sector. So in the tertiary sector, what we can see, the contribution in the tertiary sector, we can see the employment was 14.8% in 1972 to 73, and which has increased to 31.0% in the year 2017 to 18. That means in the tertiary sector also we can see that the employment have also increased. The people are more employed in the tertiary sector than previous year. And what else we can see in the secondary sector also, the people are more employed in the secondary sector than in the previous years. And what else we can see? We can also conclude that in the primary sector we can see that the percentage of employment has reduced from the previous years. That means more if the people are engaged in this tertiary or the secondary sector, more the country can develop. If more people are engaged in the primary sector, that means the country will less develop. Okay, so this much for today's class. Next, we'll see you in the next class with this continuation of employment and unemployment.